Hi, April. Okay, so I think this is recording. Okay, so I sent along a link to my scene from Sex and the City with Aiden and Carrie's fight. So I'm going to go through each parts of the presentation I would otherwise do in class. So the choice of theory that I picked in working with this couple is structural couple therapy. The reason that I picked that is because it revolves around a belief that the couple's structure at any point could have been different than it was before. And if you watch the show, you know that a lot of the reason for their dynamic and what goes wrong in their relationship and in their dynamic with one another is largely in part and impacted by Carrie's affair with Mr. Big, and with the fact that she hasn't quite moved on from the relationship and all of the damage that was done in terms of like her ability to be romantically attached, that was directly due to their relationship and is then brought into hers with Aiden. I believe that in some ways being able to like access the historical events of their relationship and their coming together will kind of like illuminate for the couple as well that at any point their structure could have been different, but in large part was made up of these past events. And I think it's important to promote insight for the couple in that way. It might also give Aiden some sort of hint into like why Carrie reacts the way she does in terms of like moves towards more commitment within their relationship. For example, the fact that she wears her engagement ring around her neck rather than her finger as they get engaged later on in the season. So I appreciate also that structural has an assumption of competence within the couple. That the first thing that you do is to assess the couple structure. What I kind of see within their relationship is that Aiden is very much the overfunctioner and Carrie is the underfunctioner. This largely revolves around their commitment and their ability to maintain and preserve intimacy with one another. Something that I really liked about the readings this quarter is like in large part the readings around intimacy, and I had never really thought about the fact that like intimacy is like multifaceted for each individual, and it's important to understand how each person identifies how intimacy looks, is created, what it should be made up of. And I think for Carrie and Aiden, those are two very different things, and it largely changes the structure of their relationship there because of it. I also think it's important because it is guided by the notion of circular causality. And I think that's really important in promoting understanding for the couple, both through enactments in session and just through what structural does in kind of an experiential way of promoting a new experience or understanding of one another within those enactments in session, with the presence of the therapist. I also think it's important that the therapist's role is to help the couple replace its like otherwise dysfunctional structure and replace it with something more adaptive. So you know, if we were to kind of change the course of the show, I think that Carrie was pretty undeserving of Aiden. But if I were to be their therapist, something that I would try to do is to have the couple's relationship be really my client, and to more so work on the fact that their structure as it stands now is dysfunctional, but that it could be morphed into something more adaptive for them, because there are a lot of strengths with this couple, and I think strengths-based is really important to work off of for anyone, but especially with the two of them, because they kind of have these empty seats within their relationship of past relationships and things that they want. And I think it's important to move from their strengths into creating a more adaptive structure by integrating all of those strengths into it. So a little bit summary and assessment of the scene. What we basically see is Carrie kind of policing what are like Aiden's minute movements towards more commitment, literally just in trying to make space in their new apartment with the renovation going on for Aiden to move in. This reminds me of like a past episode in which I think it was called Circus Freaks or something. And Carrie talks about her suspicions about Aiden because he just seems too perfect. that their relationship seems too easy and she's always looking for these things that could be wrong with him. And I think in large part this roots from her dysfunctional relationship with her ex, Mr. Big, because she had really wanted commitment from him. And in a way, in the scene, we see her becoming Mr. Big. In previous episodes with Mr. Big, she had always said, you know, tell me that I'm the one. Very much what Aiden is looking for from Carrie is just like for this very intimate statement of commitment to one another and focus on one another, which I think he is pretty aware of on both a conscious and unconscious level, that she is not entirely in the relationship, both because she is actively cheating and having an affair, and also because she does not assert a lot of intimacy on her part in the relationship, that she seems to always be fleeing from his movements towards further commitment. You see that she's keeping it light by doing so, not making room for him, and that Pete, Aiden's dog, is often like triangulated within the system. I think in a large part, like, pets are very easily triangulated in families and couples, and that's no exception with Aiden and Carrie. We see that happen in other episodes where what is happening in their relationship directly then transfers onto Pete in a more tangible way, and that she loses Pete, and that she is struggles with like his behavior, she struggles with taking care of him, and it's in large part kind of reflective of their relationship as well. She then also, with the Rogaine part of the scene, she discovers an area of vulnerability for him, but he becomes defensive. You know, she says like he says, you're going through my stuff, or you're going through my shit, and is really a greater reflection of who allows themselves to be vulnerable in the relationship. I think that they were kind of symbolically arguing about stuff and about Carrie's discovery of his Rogaine, and that he was losing hair, and it felt very unfair to him because she was bringing up a big piece of vulnerability for him when she doesn't necessarily allow that in their relationship. So it was kind of this invasion of intimacy in a way, or betrayal of it, that she went right for like a bruise for him that he's never really able to go into with her, because she's the less available and more under-functioning one in the couple. In terms of the relational dynamics, I think that is pretty much like a large part of it, is the under and over-functioning aspect. Aiden is portrayed as kind of like this perfect man, right? Of everything that she's been looking for in relationships, including commitment, consistency, loyalty, understanding, sensitivity, drive, creativity. He really complements on a lot of levels what she is and what she does. But I think in large part that's kind of what we've been talking about in class as well, is that something that initially attracts you to someone is what repels you later. So his commitment and his loyalty and his availability is something that she immediately, once she starts to have the affair with Big, like, that really repels her from her partner. I think that's in large part because on some level she knows that she is kind of trespassing this relationship that otherwise was something she had always wanted and expressed her want for. But that by having an affair, she was being disloyal to kind of like this dream that she had with a man who actively went against everything she had fought for to have with him. So I think there's a lot of guilt playing into the system as well in that way. I think that directly relates to all the events that happened for the couple then and for later on, in terms of Carrie's attempts to accommodate to Aiden. Like, he is very much like a country boy. They go out to his cabin and she tries to like adjust to his comfort zone and to his passions, but she really does so at a very surface level, and it backfires on them as a couple. And in another way, that she tries to give him what he is desiring from her, which is commitment, and